Hello, welcome to the Lululoves Crochet Podcast, episode 5, I think. My name's Emma and I'll be talking to you today about some of the crochet projects I finished recently, some works in progress, and a few other bits and bobs really. I will put all the links to where you can find me, my blog and everything else below, because I always feel a bit self-conscious saying that at the beginning, so I've decided to skip it. And as always, I will go straight into the crochet, which is, what I love to talk about really. So the first project I have today is this beautiful crocheted cushion that I finished. I love this. I had such fun with this project, mostly because I think all the different elements, they were all made separately and then stitched on afterwards. And the little embroidery details, I don't usually do embroidery. It's not something I'm very good at really, or I haven't had a lot of practice at it. But I did enjoy it. It's not the neatest, but it was good fun. And I really enjoyed that. And then on the back, it's just plain. I love that stitch pattern as well. It's really, really soothing to work that up. And I worked that up with it was some sheepseas yarn, the one I can never pronounce. And I used a 3mm to get that nice and tight. I can't remember what the yarn was. It's quite fluffy though, and I don't think you can see it, but I've edged it with some black cotton, and I'm getting some sort of fluff balls there. But it's very, very pretty. The pattern is one. There we go. The pattern is one that I'd found on Instagram actually. It was from, I've written it down, Ideas magazine. I'll put the link to that. And I'm not sure where the magazine, it's not a British magazine anyway, that's what I'm trying to say. And I had to download a digital copy, which I think cost me about £3 or so. Lovely magazine, loads of lovely projects, and I haven't really had a good look through it because I was so determined to just get on and make the cushion. The designer is Elspeth Eckstein. I'm probably saying that wrong, sorry. It's not quite finished. I ran out because I was just using items I already had in my stash. I ran out of the black that I was edging it with. It was just some cotton that I doubled up with. And it's supposed to have a pretty scallop edge and then some tassels, some black and white tassels. So I will do that because I think that would just give it an extra bit of something. But I'm really pleased. It looks so pretty. So I think I'm going to put this one up in my bedroom. And hopefully the cat won't get at it. So that's the first item. I will leave all the links below and try and write something up there in case you want to have a look. I think it was their September-October issue. But yeah, I love that. The next thing, did I finish anything else? Yes, I did. The next thing is another cowl. Lovely long V-stitch cowl. I'll put this one on for you. Oh, lovely. Look at that. There we go. I'll mess my hair up now. I love that. That is an old pattern from a copy of Inside Crochet, and it is one that I had written when I was writing my column for them. And I was looking through all the magazines I've got for some inspiration, really, and I came across the there I am. Look, there's the one I made for Inside Crochet, and I'd done it in I think it was grey and black actually, and then I popped a flower on it, and I'd done some matching knits. And look, there's a picture there of Teddy when he was new. Oh, so that must have been about 3 years ago. Anyway, what I realised was when I was writing the column, and I was doing a lot of work for magazines, and a lot of it, because I was so busy, never got put up onto the blog. So, you know, this pattern is so old now that I think I would just pop it on as a free pattern onto the blog. So I thought I'd give it a go just to check it was, you know, all right. And I made it using some really lovely yarn. The first colour is this RICO Essentials Alpaca Blend. That's a lovely dusky colour. So I've used that, and the same. This is what I've got left of the, what colour is that? Sort of browny, burnished kind of rusty colour. So I use those, and then I mix them in with some RICO Creative Melange Chunky. Is that right? Looks like that. They're all 50-gram balls. Oh, but this is my favourite. Look at that. I just love all those. I love this marble effect yarn, and the way the colours change throughout your work. So I used that as and I put 3 colours instead of the 2, and I made up some wrist warmers. Now these ones, I used the pattern exactly. It's really, really simple. Definitely a beginner's pattern. It's just trebles, and then you go straight into the V-stitch. I made them 1 round longer than I had on the in the column. I think probably I was limited by yarn weight when I wrote that. So I made them a bit longer just so that, because that's, if I was to wear a wrist warmer, that's what I would like it right up in my coat. So yes, I've made these, and they're lovely. The yarn is lovely and soft. Of course, I've got my blouse on now, so here we go. And I love that the grey just makes them, you know, a bit different. So each wrist warmer is slightly different, and I really like that. And you could, if you wanted to, you know, the V's are sort of the gaps are probably big enough for you to be able to slip a thumb through if that's how you like to wear your wrist warmers. So I've made a set of those, and I will pop that on the blog next week. Get a moment. So they're lovely, and then the cowl is lovely as well. Look at the way the greys change across. Isn't that lovely? Really lovely, really soft, really quick, and a really cozy make. I would say that the Essentials Alpaca, I'd not worked with it before, and it's lovely and soft, and it's you know, reasonable. It's a little bit splitty. Can you see? I mean, my phone won't focus, but it's a little bit splitty there. You can sort of see. Not enough to put me off working with it completely, but I did get a few little snags. You know, it's not the end of the world. So that's my second finished item, a lovely cowl and some wrist warmers, and I will be wearing those because it's just started to get really, really cold here. So I've already been wearing them actually. That's nice. But while I was perusing the magazine, this is, sorry, a really old issue. It is issue 56 of Inside Crochet. While I was going through it, I found another really lovely pattern. And it's funny actually, because I'm not sure if this pattern has been released again in a more recent magazine, but I definitely either pinned it or saved it on Instagram as one that I would like to make. And it's this. Look at this beautiful t-shirt jumper. It's by Annalise Bays. She's on Instagram because I recognise that name. That's beautiful. I've marked it because I really want to make that. So I'm so happy. I was like, brilliant. So that's that. And I did start making my Margaret jumper from Inside Crochet, I think maybe last month. I didn't have a lot of success with it, I'm afraid. I'll show you what I did. So I made up my square, and I used Aran yarn, and I've got some of that lovely Croft yarn in there that I wanted to use. So I made the square, and I was making the larger size because I like to wear my jumpers bigger. I still don't think it's very big, to be honest with you, but I was getting gauged, so I'm not sure about that. And then you work these extra bits along the side. To start with, every way I was working this jumper was going against my instinct. For example, there are no turns, so there is a very obvious right way and wrong way for this jumper. Now, I can understand that because you can see the difference in the stitches when you're working right way. Well, I just discarded that and turned my granny squares because I always make my granny squares reversible, so I turn every other round. The main reason I do that is because if you don't, you end up with a granny square that goes like this, gradually. Now, this is a small enough square for that probably not to happen anyway. So I was turning, well, where I was using 2 yarns, I was in 2 rows, the same colour, I was turning. And then along the edge, again, each row was finished off instead of turning, and you can see I've used the same colour and I really wanted to turn, so I did for that row. But each row was ended with a chain 3. I couldn't really understand that. I just wanted to end it with a treble. But I figured there may be a reason for that further on in the pattern. So again, I did as instructed. And then I got to working the neckline. And again, I carried on up. I'm not sure if I was reading the pattern right or if there was an error in the pattern. I doubt it, but I think it's just the way I was reading it. But I worked the first 3 up following the pattern. And then it says repeat rows 3 and 4 until armhole measures, however. So I went back up to row 3, begin at 3 treble in the next chain space, which would have been here. Three treble in the next chain space, 3 treble, chain 1, 3 treble, and the next chain space. Well, there was no chain space for it, so, and each row it just wanted you to finish off. So I added a treble there, and I was working it, and I was thinking, I can see what the pattern is trying to tell me to do. I think I need to stop following the pattern because I was getting myself confused, and there was something, I'm either reading it very wrong or there's something not quite right about that. So I thought, I would be better off doing it my own way, I think. So I've given up with my Margaret jumper. I think I will keep the bottom, what I've done, and then work out my own armholes, which is a bit of a shame because the main reason I wanted to try it was to work out the arms. So I was sad about that because when you've had a real crochet high, like I just finished my diamonds and bobbles jumper and I was feeling really good, and I was thinking, yes, I've got this garment making malarkey down, I can do it. So I went straight in very confidently, this should be no, and then you hit a block. It does knock your confidence a bit, but I think I've been crocheting long enough now to figure it out for myself. So I am going to undo that and work my own decreases, and then maybe figure out the arms from the pattern, or I'll do something else. So that was a bit of a fail, really, and I felt, the thing is, I don't want to waste it because I used all that lovely yarn. So you can't win them all, can you? So I'm putting that aside and I will think about that another time. The other pattern I started was another one from Inside Crochet. I just love this magazine. I love the patterns. I do buy it every month. I'm not ashamed to say. Is this one? Look at that. That's gorgeous, isn't it? I just love this open lace work sort of kimono style. And this one is by Kath Webber. I love that. I do really like it in the yellow. And I was thinking, well, maybe I'll buy some yarn to do that. But it's on the cover as well. Look, this is issue 95. I think it's the one that's out at the moment. But I didn't really want to buy any new yarn, and yellow is not a colour that I really wear, so I just started it with some Aran acrylic, really. You have to make, now these are supposed to be squares, but they are not blocked, but you can imagine that when they're blocked, they will look something like this. They're lovely, aren't they? So you have to make, I think it's 34 squares, and then it's just a case of stitching them together and adding some tassels. So I really love that. So I'm excited to make that. I've only made so far 4 because I really want to get it done, but I've got lots of other things I'm supposed to be doing as well, so I'm always a bit torn when I'm working in the evenings. But I think that's going to look so lovely. So I'm really excited about finishing that. Yeah, I really like that pattern. So that's the next work in progress. The other thing I started was a bit of an accident, really. It came about because I pinned so many lovely images on Pinterest, and I save images on my Instagram, and I never get to make half the things because I'm either making my own items or there's only so much time you have. So I think it was a Saturday morning, I really wanted to use something with the leftover craft yarn that I had from the jumper, and because I knew that the jumper was unlikely to see the light of day, I wanted to make something that would last with it. So I found an image, and it was one of those, it's a bit naughty really, it was one of those images on Pinterest where it's just a diagram, there's no source. So I made up this square with the leftover croft yarn. It's unusual because the corners are made with just the one puff there instead of putting the two. Anyway, I really liked that, and it came up at about, I think it was about 9 inches. And it was a really lovely thing to do on a Saturday morning, you know, sat in bed, and I thought, oh, I could do this every Saturday. And then I thought, well, I'm so slow at making blankets. Why not just take full advantage of that and commit to 1 square a week? So I'm working 1 9-inch square every Saturday morning, and I'll see how long I can do it for, but if I manage to do it for a year, I'll have 52 squares. And then I may be able to make myself a nice blanket for my bed. So I'm going to keep all the colours really neutral because I don't like a lot of colour in my bedroom. And I'm just, and it's a really nice project because on a Friday evening I scroll through and see what pattern I'd like to try, and then I get everything ready, and then on the Saturday morning I just sit in bed and I make it up, and it's, you know, 15 minutes of bliss really. So this was last Saturday's pattern. This is my favourite so far. This was for a 12-inch square, but obviously because I've started with the 9-inch, I've got to carry on. So I just, I didn't even have to adapt it. I just missed off the last 2 or 3 rows. That, I love that one. And that, I haven't written it down. It's a free download on Ravelry. I can't remember the designer, but I'll put it here now. So that's a 3 square, and it's beautiful. I think it's called the Origami Flower. So I really love that. So I've got already look 2, and you can see the lovely colours. Wow, they're not even colours, are they? They're shades. So I'm just going to slowly, and then I think what I'll do is probably once a month or every 6 weeks or so, I will do, instead of showing you 2 squares every time I podcast, I'll just do a little roundup of the squares that I've made and the patterns. So for me, it's the perfect project really, because I get to experiment and try out new patterns, but it's not a big time commitment. So I love that. And when I was looking through all my books for various different things, I came across this book that I've bought. I guess it must be Swedish or Dutch. I'm sorry, I don't know. Anyway, I'd obviously bought it probably from Amazon or eBay, and it's got lots of it's just got lots of motifs really. It's all sorts of squares and that in there. But I came across the pattern that I've used for that square. So there it is, it's number 2. So if you want the pattern, it's there. When I link to them, if I do a blog post and I'll link to them, I'll put all the details, and I'll try and find the diagram that I found on the internet, because it is knocking about, but it had no name, and I can't really read that to tell you. So, but that's the book. So I'm excited. I'm working them up just with a 5mm and leftover Aran from different projects. So I think, you know, if I do end up keeping up with that will be a really special blanket, because I have lots of leftover yarn from different projects, and it will almost be like one of those beautiful sample blankets that I see. Lovely. So that's that. And I think that's it for crochet. Let me just check my list. Oh, I've got one more thing to show you actually. I think I mentioned that my friend Jo was testing the Light Between Oceans courtship shawl for me, and I had given her all of the, I was torn between the Drop Snapple and the Wendy merino mix, I think, when I was initially making it. So I gave that to her with the pattern, and she went away and made her own Light Between Oceans courtship. I'm going to have to come up with a better name, I think. Courtship shawl. And she's very kindly loaned it back to me so that I can show you. So this is Jo's beautiful Light Between Oceans shawl. Let me stand up and see if I can put it on for you. I think it's coming up the same sort of size. This merino yarn is so soft. Oh, it's a lot softer than the Nepal, and maybe a little bit heavier. There we go. Isn't that beautiful? And I think it might be our different tensions, but this one is coming up slightly shorter, but I think it looks just as pretty. So it's beautiful, and she got on very well with my pattern writing, thankfully. I love that. And this is in a, the grey colour. So thank you, Jo. I'll just sit here and wear your shawl for a bit. So I think she spotted one error in one of the repeats that I've just got to have a quick look at, and then this should be listed in the next week. Absolutely, I've set myself deadlines. I've given myself a good talking to, and so I will just check on that, and then I think that will be good to go. So thank you, Jo, for making that. You will get your shawl back, I promise. And that's it for the crochet, really. Yes. So I've got quite a few things to be getting on with. I'm still working on my son's blanket for Christmas. I am also working on another shawl for my daughter, although at this rate I just know I'm going to be giving her mine. And I am working on the second version of the Diamonds and Bubbles jumper. So yeah, quite a lot to be getting on with. And I think I haven't brought anything else out to talk to you about today. I finished my book and I haven't yet picked another one to start. Haven't had much time really. And what have I written down? Oh, TV. I did watch a series on Netflix. I think it was 4 or 5 parts, I can't remember, called Alias Grace. And it's the adaptation of Margaret Atwood's book. Now, I'd never read that book, but I'd read The Handmaid's Tale, and I've read a couple of her books actually. And I do like her work. I think she always gives really strong female characters. They're quite enigmatic and mysterious, but they're quite strong characters. It's strong in their silence, I always think. Anyway, I really loved that. So it's about a young lady that's been accused of murdering her employer and, well, I guess both her employers really. But she has no memory of it. So it's set, I can't remember when it's set. Quite a while ago. It was a costume, a period piece, but it was really engaging, and I really liked it. So I would definitely recommend that. And the other one I've just started watching on Netflix is called Siena. And actually, thinking about it, the story is a little bit similar. I've only watched one episode of that, but and that's set in modern day, and it's a family are at the beach, and suddenly she's got her young son with her. He's only a couple of years old, and there's a couple in front of them, and they're playing the music and being quite annoying. And suddenly she just gets up and kills him, and it's just bizarre, really. And she she just can't explain why she did it. So she's obviously been triggered by something, and I think the rest of the episodes are going to be exploring what's set her off, and whether she knew him or not, because from the first episode it looks like he really was a complete stranger to her, but I'm not sure about that. So I've been watching, well, I've watched one episode of that, and I'm intrigued enough to carry on with that. So I will let you know how I get on with that one. And that's it really. So I will get the cowl and the mitten pattern up on the blog for next Friday, maybe before, depending on the time. I will have the pattern for this released next week, and I think that's everything. So I hope you're all well. Thank you for sticking with me for another episode, and I will see you in another couple of weeks, hopefully. Thank you.